Hi, my name is Dave Roberts, and it's another film. This one's about Dr. John Bradford. I run the Wrongfully Convicted Association. We have a website called the wrongfullyconvictedassociation.com. If you're looking at this on YouTube, go to the website wrongfullyconvictedassociation.com, and you'll see on the front page introduction to website, meet Dave Roberts, and also Dave Roberts' story continues, and it'll give you an idea. And what we want to talk about here is the Dr. Bradford. He's a corrupt doctor that works out of the Royal Ottawa Hospital. I met Dr. Bradford. What happened is in 1995, in January, I was charged with the 3 counts of printing defamatory statements, knowing they are false against a doctor, a law firm, crown attorney, judge, and a law firm. What happened is on February 15th, the charges were thrown out. The January 3rd charges, I had a condition to stay out away from the courthouse unless I had a court appearance, and also wanted to stay away from Crown Attorney Andrew Burson, the Crown Attorney. So what happened was February 15th, the charges were dropped. They were withholding information, and they turned around and a bunch of cops beat and tortured me in the basement of the courthouse. They worked at the courthouse as security, and then what happened is on the 16th, they said that I never had court February 15th. So on the 16th, I had the judge the next day, and the judge told him, listen, he had court. So months went by, and they kept saying that I didn't have court, so I protested Andrew Burson's. Now, I had no condition to stay away from him because the charges from the January 3rd were thrown out. What happened was I was charged with breaking this condition. So what happened is they ended up sending me up to the judge on the 15th, and the 16th said all you got to do is pick up the phone and find out, check to see, call court clerk and see that he had court. It's pretty simple. So I told Dr. Bradford to do this. Well, Dr. Bradford didn't do it. Okay, and he found me mentally insane at the time of the crime of breaking these conditions. Didn't have any. After about a year, and it came out that I was wrongfully convicted. But Dr. Bradford, after the first week I started seeing him, I gave him a copy of the February 15th transcript. He got a copy sent to him, plus I had a copy. So what happened is they turned around and he covered up this, and because he had wrote a report within two things and 2 days, and he stated, I seen him like 20 minutes, and he stated that on his report, it says, from the police, I make my report based solely on the police and the Crown Attorney statements. Well, it came out later on they were all false, and he figured this out within the first week. But I seen this doctor for 2.5 years. He drugged me, he knew the cops were beating me, and it came out in '96 that I was wrongfully convicted. And they promised a criminal investigation in this. This was done in front of a medical review board, and I was promised to get to see my child and all this. And it was Ron Liberté that said this is the Crown Attorney at the hearing. So what happened is later on, Dr. Bradford promised to get help do the paperwork to see the child, and the lawyer said he'd do it and all this, so they didn't do it. And then nothing happened. I continued to see the doctor because he said he was going to do the paperwork to see my child. So what happened was Dr. Bradford, after a while, he just seen that these guys were corrupt and really bad, and that I was an okay guy. So he wouldn't go. Later on, when I ended up before a medical review board, he turned around and they wanted to lock me up in a mental institution and drug me again. And what happened is Bradford had taken me off the drugs when he couldn't cover up anymore that the police I was wrongfully convicted. He kept saying things like, how do I know conditions are dropped when are gone when charges are dropped? Stupid things like this. And he'd say that I had a paranoid prosecution. Like the police are still saying that I never had court February 15th, and here's the transcript. But Dr. Bradford, in his statement, he's turned around and he stated that from the January 3rd charge, when the charge was dropped, that I turned around and I entered into an agreement to get it dropped. Well, here's the February 15th transcript. It's not true. There's also a Crown Attorney by the name of Peter Griffiths in May of '95 stated that he removed the condition, that he removed the charge. So when I seen Bradford a month later, I never even had the charge. But Bradford made this up because the police and that were all saying that I had these things. And it was untrue. And I've got the documentation to prove it. So, but Bradford knew, and he didn't know what to do because of hospital closures back in '95, and Bob Runciman was revamping the system, and they were strengthening the stalking charge and all stalking because of the Brian Smith killing. But so Bradford got caught with his pants down, and he didn't want to admit it. And this man's got pride like crazy, but he's just basically another Charles Smith, the guy that found all those people guilty for killing their kids and all this, and he was just a pathetic liar. But Bradford, in the last medical board here in 1997, Dr. Bradford turned around and he stated the Crown Attorney wanted me to be locked up in a mental institution. And Bradford, no, he stood up in the thing. He says, "No, there's nothing wrong with him. He's coming after you, and he knows what he's doing. And don't send him back here because he won't. He won't do it." So over the years after '97, I was protesting, and I was selling to Andy Burson, Dr. John Bradford's perjury in the newspaper. Even when I seeing him, I did. I even wrapped up one flyer with his talking about his perjury for sale, and then with a bottle of Vaseline, and gave it to them, you know, saying, "Hey, you're going to go to jail, you know, something for jail." And so what happened is Bradford. Later on, I was protesting. I got charged again with protesting and that. So I subpoenaed Dr. Bradford into court. Well, Dr. Bradford wouldn't show. Another time, I walked into the Police Services Board and I threw down Dr. John Bradford's perjury and everything else. And Dr. Bradford was saying that I entered into an agreement to stay away from Andrew Burson's, which I didn't, to get the charges dropped. And the police officer, Anthony Constantini, read the documents that I think, it was a February 15th transfer, it was Dr. Bradford's perjury, Andrew Burson's false statement, and the cops, showing the cops was not true. What he was saying, I never had court that day, because he had the February 15th transfer. And he states in this report, in 2000, the cop, he says, "Dave has always kept these conditions, the same conditions that he's saying that I broke, the doctor, John Bradford." So I've been trying to get Bradford up on the stand, but he won't show when I subpoena him. But so what happened is a crooked cop by the name of Ian Davison, who used to work for the Ottawa Police, and he turned around and he stated that he talked to Dr. John Bradford and said that I was dangerous and all this type of thing and all this type of stuff. So what happened is the judge ordered, because Ian Davison said this, judge ordered me an outpatient assessment, and I said I was happy about it because I knew that I could question Dr. Bradford on the stand now, if he, you know. But I'm court ordered, okay, and they're saying I have a mental condition, so it's my right to be assessed. Well, they refused. The Royal Ottawa Hospital said not to come back in '97. I knew that, and I mentioned to it in court. And then what happened is, because I had to go see them for this condition they put on me in 2000. I had to call them and make an appointment. Well, they refused to see me. Well, they ended up phoning up this corrupt lawyer that was picked for me by the Crown Attorney's Office by the name of, I forgot his name now, it doesn't matter. But he states in the transcript, and I have the transcript here, that Davis went and talked to, he's tried to make an appointment, and for all intents and purposes, he has kept his part of the condition of trying to make the appointment and trying to go and see him. But they will just not see him. And this is what he states. So what happens when you're court ordered, I'm court ordered to see them, but also because they got the contract to do the assessment, they are court ordered to see it. So they broke the court order. Also, that means it's a violation of my rights, which is so-called fair trial. Not that I have anything wrong with me, it's just that it's my right if they're accusing me of that. So Dr. Bradford wouldn't even show up in court, you know. And the reason being is because of his statements. You know, they talk about the February 15th that I never had court and that, and they sent up all this evidence up to Dr. Bradford in '95 about the incident and the thing. But in '95, where the police beat me and I never had court, they bring those charges up, but those charges just disappeared because they figured out that the cops were lying on that. And after, like I said, in '96, I was found wrongfully convicted and promised a criminal investigation. That's when Bradford ran, Royal Ottawa Hospital ran. And I've been battling with these guys, and they just won't come clean that they fixed a trial. I got them. They still, you know, they're making police are saying they're making statements. I honestly believe that Dr. Bradford just, at the Royal Ottawa Hospital, just washed their hands of it. They just running from this case because they're caught fixing trials. And there's nothing they can do. They can't. If they go to court, there's a biblical verse that says, "For what will you say when you get to court?" Negotiate all the way to court. For what will you say when you get to court? They won't show up in court because what could he say? What, 2.5 years you've seen this man? You couldn't figure out that he had court February 15th when he had the transcript in his hand? You know, where's the paperwork that says that he entered into an agreement? You know, there is none. He just made this stuff up. So that's what Dr. Bradford at the Royal Ottawa Hospital has been up to, and the Royal Ottawa Hospital. This is a new hospital that turned around and just got 200 beds, $130 million to build the hospital. They just built it a few years back, and they do assessments for the courts, but they're corrupt. They'll fix a trial, just like the Charles Smith there. A couple years ago, there was an inquiry into that dog. Well, this dog here is the same thing. He's full of it, and that's what he is. And we want to put this man in jail because, see, when he injected me with drugs, he knew that I was innocent, okay, and he was falsifying his reports. And the only reason he did it was to turn around and to try to break me. The drugs that when he put in those drugs in me at that time, he broke a law and the penalty is, it's called causing the administration to administer, attempt to cause to be administered. A drug to stupefy or hinder the defense and to commit an indictable offense. What the indictable offense is, they were fixing a trial, and the drugs they were sticking in me was to hinder my defense. That guy's bouncing off the walls for 3.5 months. Now this guy turns around and takes me off the drugs when it came out that I was wrongfully convicted, and in the 96 hearing, he turned around and stated, the first question I asked him, I said, "Was I wrongfully convicted?" He says, "Yes." The Crown Attorney stood up and said, "I promise a criminal investigation, I promise, I promise." There's been nothing but cover up since then. After that, they tried to lock me up in Penitang again, mental institution for life, and drug me. Bradford wouldn't go for it because it was just so corrupt. He wouldn't go along with that. But that's Dr. John Bradford. I call him Charles Smith too, a.k.a. Charles Smith. Just the guy's got an ego size of Timbuktu and won't do it. But what we'd like you to do is to make a sign up, like Wrongful Convicted Association. Tell your friends about this website and put a sign in your window or on your front lawn, or email your friends about these website wrongfullyconvictedassociation.com, and get the word out. And let's put this guy in jail for the rest of his life. This is what he deserves, and let's give it to him. Thank you.